Handlebars and Imposter Syndrome. I got these ones from Norman Hyde, and these actually are the exact ones that I had on the bike when I bought it, and I love the riding position. Since then, I've changed handlebars twice. Once because obviously I bent the old ones, and then changed those to the ones that I put on the way back from Turkey. And I had those for us, and then I swapped them out with some rental bars, which just did not work. Wrong riding position. They're okay, but I like a slightly wider grip. But my problem is that I've got this little kind of gap up the side of my house where I bring the bike. And I remember when I picked up the bike and it had these Norman Hyde bars on, that I couldn't actually get the bars through that gap. So I had to cut a little bit off the bars either side, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to show you that in a sec, what that looked like. But I eventually kind of cut a little bit off. It was only about 15 mil off each side, so it's about 30 mil in total. The other option is that I can kind of knock a bit of the wall down in order to get the bars through. I mean, I could take out that brick, I suppose. To be honest, it's pretty knackered anyway, but if I took this brick out here and shaved off that bit there, then these finishing bricks would go across. It's got to be the way forward, hasn't it? Because I want nice wide bars. So you go up here and it's really narrow just here, this first bit here, then it gets wider and wider and wider all the way up to the end. So that's dedication though, isn't it, when you're going to knock a bit of wall down so you can get your handlebars through. Here's the bars. These are the Norman Hyde bars. They are called the Norman Hyde Western, I believe. And they are just the perfect upgrade from the normal bars that you get with the Thunderbird. They're not too far down, but the normal Thunderbird bars, they were quite high up and looked a little bit too old school for me. So these are a little bit more aggressive, but still keep that nice riding position. So we're going to put those on today. Nice. As you will notice, I have got my office space back in the corner because I've actually started in a new job where I really, really have to have proper office space. There was terrible internet connection out here, so I've installed this lovely new access point, which apparently you can pick up from about 600 meters away. So that means I can probably be down in Sainsbury's, which is over the road and a bit further along there, and access my own Wi-Fi. Not that I'll need to, but I could. The phaser has gone, and that might disappoint you. Slightly disappointed me because it was going to be something that me and my son did together, but we couldn't quite decide what we were going to do with it. I really needed some office space. I didn't just want to park it outside through the winter where I knew it would just kind of be left to rot a bit. I decided, even though it was a bit of a hard decision, I decided to sell the phaser. Now, the funny thing was that I put it up for sale and I had a bit of interest, and a guy gets in touch and said, listen, I'm really interested in this. I'd like to come and take a look and I'll just buy it actually. So I was like, well, that's really cool. Come and take a look and take it out for a test ride and see what you think. And he says, oh, I don't think I need to take it for a test ride because I've just seen you riding it down from Liverpool on YouTube. Now, YouTube's great, don't get me wrong, but it meant that I had to drop the price because on YouTube I told everybody how much I'd pay for it. So I got less for it than I thought I was going to get. But I got my money back and I thought, actually, it's going to a good home. It's all good. So the guy got it for a really good price. It's a quality little bike, that one. So that one's gone, but it just means now I've got room for all my office activities and everything else I need to do in here with the Thunderbird. So it's just back to me and the Thunderbird. And it's absolutely freezing in here. So I'm going to turn the heating on, warm the place up a little bit. I'm so looking forward to getting that nice riding position back that I had before because it was just perfect. So anyway, here we go. there's the old bars compared to the new bars. They are drastically different. They actually look wider, these ones as well. I hope they fit. Well, that's annoying, isn't it? Because they don't even flipping fit, these bars. Too thick. How annoying can this be? I was pretty sure I did all the right research. But they are actually the perfect bar as well. Oh, what a waste of time. Well, that was irritating. So it turns out that I've gone and ordered 25mm bars thickness, and what I need is 22mm. It's not the end of the world. Let's just go online here. Norman Hyde bars. Okay, so it turns out that I need the 7/8 of an inch. Those are the ones I need. How annoying. And I've gone and got the 1-inch ones. Why did I do that? Two different types of bars. What was I thinking? It's the 7/8 of an inch ones. Okay, I have just purchased the correct handlebars after ordering the wrong ones a couple of weeks back. I first purchased the 1-inch bars when I needed the 7/8 inch. I'm hoping this has happened many times and it's not just me. Please let me know if you have a return policy. Kind regards, Matt. Hopefully Norman Hyde will let me return them. I kind of promised myself that I would post up every week for 6 months. Obviously I didn't do that last week. The reason being is because I've actually started in a new role. I've got a new job. It's been on the kind of the back burner for a number of years actually, waiting for some funding to come through for a big aerospace, well, it's a small aerospace startup, but I think it's going to be an absolutely amazing experience. I'm very excited about it. But the funding started to come through, which meant that we could get things rolling. And me as the director of operations, suddenly my role kicked into place and things kind of started to happen. So so that's why last week I was literally just spending some time getting my head around everything. Not that there was loads to do, but I do have a lot to learn because this area is not something that I've worked in for, or I've never worked in this area actually. I've never worked in the aerospace industry. But doing operations is kind of similar for any kind of role, I suppose. So anyway, that's why my head was just in a completely different headspace last week. And I just didn't get the time. And when I did have a little bit of time, I was kind of like just chilling out a little bit and trying to catch up on a little bit of reading around stuff that I need to do. So anyway, that's that. Now this week, I'm not even going to get out on the bike because I got no handlebars. Ordered the wrong ones. And I can't be bothered to put the old ones back on to take it out for a spin today. And it's a bit grey and it's very cold. So I don't think I'm going to do that anyway. But sticking with my trying to post up as often as possible, I've actually been thinking quite a bit this last week, partially because of the new job and what it's kind of, when I enter into a new role or into something that's new, there are certain things that kick off every single time in my mind. One of the things is a sense of, you are this, they call it imposter syndrome, don't they? Where you don't feel like you should be somewhere. I don't actually know what the definition of imposter syndrome is. I'm actually going to Google that right now. I'm going to be right back to you. Hang on. Imposter syndrome meaning. Imposter syndrome is a psychological experience where someone feels like a fraud or incompetent even though they've achieved success. It can affect people in their personal lives, at work and in school. Symptoms: feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you need to work harder than others. Man. Rationalizing your successes, feeling like you're undeserving of recognition, taking all the blame for mistakes, feeling like you need to know everything before starting a new task. Now, I'm not sure about you. I know for a fact that this has been a huge part of my life. Feeling like I don't belong. I mean, these are like, feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you need to work harder than others. That's nuts, isn't it? And I can look back on my life, throughout my life, and I would say that I've achieved a certain amount of success in the things that I've done in my life. I am not a millionaire. I can't just go and live on the Bahamas and sip pina coladas every day on the beach, not having to think about who's going to pay the bills. Not at all. But I have enough success to be able to say that I've started up kind of multiple small to medium sized enterprises, and they've worked just fine, and they've enabled us to pay the mortgage and enabled us to go on holiday. And I don't have a massive brand new car. Not that I want a massive brand new car anyway. Massive car. I do like big cars, but brand new doesn't really do anything for me. I like older vehicles. Anyway, regardless, I cannot say that I've kind of achieved a huge amount of success, where other people that are very successful would look at it and be like, yeah, you belong in our club. But even so, I still turn up in every single thing that I'm going to do and have a feeling in the back of my mind that I shouldn't be there. And I've got to kind of prove to everybody that I belong there. And I have to suppress that, because it can lead to certain behaviors and ways of acting that other people can see. And they're like, hey, you need to chill out, man. You're just fine. You know, I've actually had some close friends turn around and say, you need to take it easy, mate, because you don't need to prove to everybody that you need to be here. You don't need to prove to everybody that you deserve to be here. You're here, and that's good enough. And that's testament in itself that you should be here. So imposter syndrome, a massive one. And it can crop up in any area of life, literally any area of life, from work to being a dad to being, every area of life can be affected by this. So I've had to kind of recognize that it's a thing, not pretend that it's not a thing, but recognize that it actually is a thing, and it's something that affects my life and affects just about everything I do. So I go kind of pre-warned, pre-armed, if you like, knowing that this is probably going to happen. I am going to feel a certain way. I am going to be tempted to act a certain way. And I'm going to be tempted to work way harder than I need to work in order to kind of earn my place there, if you know what I mean. My hands are dirty now because I've been fiddling with the bike. So imposter syndrome, I wonder if you get it as well. And if you do, what are your tactics for kind of dealing with that sense of feeling like you don't belong? Because when we know this stuff, when we're aware that this stuff is going on in our lives, we can take certain kind of steps to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of making rash decisions, such as pulling out of something when we shouldn't, moving away from something when we should move towards it, quitting when we should actually continue. And the worst one of the imposter syndrome thing, which I don't think is kind of spoken about here too much, but it leads to a bit of paranoia, that you think other people are thinking things about you. You think that other people are thinking about you the way you think about yourself, which is quite often quite negative. You think, oh, I don't belong here. And you think the other person over there is thinking, that guy doesn't belong here. He shouldn't be here, shouldn't be doing this. And that can totally paralyze you, and it can make you do things that you shouldn't do, such as quitting before you've even started. And that's a bad thing, because we know from experience, when you stick at something, you usually succeed. It usually goes quite well. And even if it doesn't go well, you at least learn something from it, and you know that, okay, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe this isn't the right place for me, but that decision is taken from a rational perspective, rather than, I feel like I don't belong here, therefore I don't belong here. And off you go, and you move from one thing to another, and you never quite settle. You never quite set your roots down and get things done that need to be done, stuff that you're really capable of. So this last couple of weeks, since all this has been kicking off, have I experienced imposter syndrome? Yeah, actually loads. Am I going to succumb to imposter syndrome? No, absolutely not, because it's always going to be there. So if it's always going to be there, I may as well just learn to live with it, because it ain't going to go away anytime soon. And it'll keep cropping up and popping up its head and telling me what it thinks and telling me what I should do. And I just say no, and I just carry on. I mean, the way you say no is that you don't react to it, is that you don't do anything to try and appease that feeling and try and make that feeling go away. It's just you recognize it's there. You say, hey, you're here with me in the room, follow me around all over the place. You could just follow me around. I'm going to carry on anyway. And I think that's the way you defeat a lot of things in life, is that you can't always get rid of them fully. They don't always go away. But it's whether you listen to them. It's whether you act according to the feelings or not. So anyway, that was my little 2 pence today for you guys, and great to connect. And sorry about the bike. I was going to go out for a little spin and have a little razz around, and but that ain't going to happen today. And I do want a second bike, and I was close, so close to buying a second bike after I sold the Phaser. It's ridiculous. I sold the Phaser because I needed more room in the office. I don't like sticking my bike outside. I probably could have done, really, under a nice cover. I mean, bikes live out. It's weird, isn't it? We think, I don't want to put my bike outside under a cover. And yet, we go and ride our bikes outside because that's the only place you can ride them. So they spend all of their kind of useful life outside anyway. And then when you bring them home, you kind of want to put them in their bedroom and make them all warm and cozy. I'm like that about my bikes anyway. But I got rid of the Phaser, and suddenly I had all this space. I was like, oh wow, now I can get something else. And if I'm honest with you, one of the bikes, I know I've spoken about HarleyDavidson Sports does, and I'm pretty sure that there's a HarleyDavidson Sports out there with my name on it, and it's going to happen at some point. But one of the bikes has always fascinated me is the early Goldwings, the GL 1000s, the GL 1100s. So the Goldwings before they put all the fairings on. I think they call them like the Transcontinental or something like that when they put all the fairing stuff on it. But from 1975, when they started building the Goldwing, up until like 81, I think. 81, I think, was the first year you could get all the fairing. I'm not interested in all the fairings. I like naked bikes. I don't really like fairings very much. But the 1975 to kind of 1980, 81 Goldwings, they are absolutely beautiful bikes. They are absolutely stunning. And I think in terms of maintenance, they are fairly straightforward as well. Obviously, all bikes have a few of their quirks, but in order to be able to get to stuff on a Goldwing, it's quite a lot. You got all the cam belts at the very front of the engine. You just take off the cam belt cover and everything's right in there. You can just change them all out in no time. And it's just one of those, for me, an iconic bike built for the American market back in the 70s, for this long kind of cruising across America. And I absolutely love the look of them. They just look amazing. They sound amazing. They're smooth. They're lovely. Anyway, I basically lined one up to buy. I was going to go over to the Isle of Wight to pick up one that is in the middle of a kind of a bit of a restoration project. The guy had some setbacks and just kind of wanted to get rid of it. It's about 90% complete. So I was like, I'm going to go over and get that. But at the last minute, I said to the guy, listen, I don't think I'm going to take you up on this time, because basically I don't have time to work on a bike right now. And that was one of the reasons, one of the reasons of getting rid of the Phaser, is that me and Joshua, my son, realized that we just didn't have time to fiddle with a bike at the moment anyway. So we thought, right, let's get rid of it. Instead of just sitting here, a guy really wanted it. He was just up the road from me, really wanted it. I said, here you go, man. Here's a nice, decent Phaser for you. And it meant that I freed up all the space to be able to put my office back in here, which I really, really need. But do I have the second bike itch? Massively. I just love the bikes, just love the bikes. If I wasn't so attached to the Thunderbird, then I would get rid of the Thunderbird and try something else out. just have one bike at a time. But I just can't sell the Thunderbird. It can't happen because it's kind of earned this place in my life as a treasured possession. So it's not going anywhere. It's staying with me forever. At one time in my life, I'll have a big enough house to be able to kind of hang it on the wall or something. You can't do that. You need to ride it until it dies. Anyway, right, over and out from me. Thanks for tuning in again. There will obviously be more bike related content coming, keeping you up to speed on what's happening in my life, and also talking about stuff that I genuinely find, some stuff that I genuinely find hard in life, and other stuff that I find easy. I'm just going to talk about all of it because it's all a bit of a chuckle. And it's happening to us all, isn't it? We struggle with the same stuff usually, and we go through the same things, and us blokes just keep going, don't we? We just keep going, and we just keep soldiering on like we're indestructible, but we're not. And we need to talk, and we need to get it out of our systems. And put your thoughts below. I'll catch you on the next one.